Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. Let's bring in our next guest for our cash tag segment. That's going to be Landon Swan. He's a co-founder at Likefolio. Welcome back to the show, Landon.
Thank you, Tom. Good to be here. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you. We're talking airlines. Delta fell after their earnings. You know what? And that seems to be the best in breed in this space, Landon. Tell me why these airlines are struggling. Oil prices are down from last quarter, back below $75 a barrel. You know, TSA numbers are at or near record highs. I mean, is this just management, or is it just the industry that's just choppy all the time? And it's just like when you think they should be making money, the stock underperforms.
Right. I think it's an industry thing. I think choppy is a great way to describe it. I mean, we've got Delta as the number one when it comes to consumers. They consistently perform at the top when it comes to happiness, and recently they're consistently at the top when it comes to demand growth and web visits and things like that. So, to see them disappoint just kind of sets up the entire industry for disappointment, I think. And you can see here, I mean, the change in visits for Delta, they're the clear leader, right? I mean, Southwest is the one that's kind of getting their butt kicked, but Delta stands out on the positive side, and everybody else is just sort of ho-hum, I guess. Of course, Spirit Airlines, you got to talk about them if you're talking about the airline industry, what's happened with them and JetBlue. Very disappointing for Spirit Airlines investors and the company, and that's going to take a huge toll on things. It could, if Spirit has trouble and they, hypothetically, if they get out of the picture, then that will jack up prices for a lot of other companies. Could be good for everyone else. So we'll see how that plays out. But when you look at United Airlines, one of the things that we've seen is we've been fairly bullish, moving in the bullish direction on United for a little while now. We put out a note a couple of months ago talking about how things are really shaping up well for United. They had very strong happiness, and the scores were looking pretty good on them. I'm using past tense because over the last couple of weeks, just with news with what happened with Alaska's Airlines door plug with the emergency landing for United, and with their CEO being in the news for politicized stuff, we've seen a big drop in happiness for United. And with airlines, happiness is a really big indicator that we've seen. So we like to follow that one. Delta, like I said, is always at the top. It's getting a little more crowded at the top, but United was challenging. They're down a few points here. That week, I think they dropped 9 points. They've recovered some, so it was maybe a flash in the pan. We'll see. But given what happened with Bud Light, I just want to be very careful with this company, because you get into politicized stuff, and investors and consumers particularly start to get a little bit weary. So, United, they went from an earnings score of in the 20s, plus 20 to plus 30, somewhere in there, 2 weeks ago. Now we've got them basically neutral. So I was looking forward to playing this one ahead of earnings on the bullish side, but now it's a lot more neutral because of, again, the happiness drops that's happened over the last couple of weeks for United.
Yeah, Landon, the airline stocks in general are tricky to trade, right? Because of all the different things that can affect their price. I've got the TSA data in front of me that Tom just mentioned. Except for January 21st or January 1st, which fell on a Monday, every other day this year was higher than last year in terms of TSA data so far this year. I traveled over the last week, and I got emails on both sides asking if I want vouchers to skip because these flights were overbought. But the problem is, Landon, and you explain to us if you think that this is the case. This stock sold off on the Delta news. That's one issue. But capacity, right? It's really good for the company, but it's not always great for the stock when that happens. When, for some reason, when airlines add capacity, it looks like it cuts into margins, and they hammer the stock on that news. And as you know, all these airlines have raised capacity in the last year, Landon, and that's why I think some of these stocks are sitting on lows. Doesn't mean there's not opportunity, but it's tricky here, isn't it?
It's definitely tricky, and it's tough to understand and kind of put into words how capacity affects everything. One thing though that we've seen with a lot of these airlines is they're moving towards the more premium seats, right? Which means more leg room, more first class, less capacity, basically higher prices per seat. which you would think investors would love. And I think that, as a consumer, I definitely love that. Well, I'm a tall guy. I need that extra legroom. But yeah, absolutely. I think that capacity is key. And I do see a trend in a lot of the airlines, United included, into moving towards slightly fewer seats with higher prices, because that's what consumers have asked for through their wallets, through their actions with the companies. When you book, people are more likely to book those seats, so they want more of them. So that I'm bullish on for the airline industry overall. TSA data, again, love it, and I think we're all-time highs on TSA data, if I'm not mistaken. I know we're finally above the 2019 numbers, which took a long time to recover from the COVID lockdowns, but now we're finally beating those, and I think we're hitting all-time highs on TSA data. So bullish on the industry as a whole. Was more bullish on United 2 weeks ago. Just some of the safety concerns in the direction of the company, just general things that consumers take notice of. Obviously a light coming on and an open door light causing an aircraft to have to land. Not a huge deal, but if it happens a week after a plane was flying around with basically a hole in the side, that makes people question, well, do I want to fly on a 737 MAX 9, right? I mean, you have to make that kind of decision as a consumer. It's in the news, so it's in your head. You would think, as much as I talk about valuation, you would think that the drop from Delta would really boost Folio's outlook just as far as value play-wise, but the data of United dropped at the same time, so it didn't open up an opportunity like I hoped it would. And also, it makes me just a little bit hesitant on the airline industry overall, because we've always had Delta as the clear leader for the last few quarters. And so to see them disappoint makes me a little bit hesitant on the rest of them.
Landon, when you look at this, competition here in the States, the stocks trade choppy. Are you guys seeing any data that's reflective of that international travel still robust because it exploded in 2023, and are business travelers coming back, because that's where they make their bread and butter on those higher fares, those short-term fares and stuff? Are you seeing any data that's reflective that that's starting to pick up or at least staying robust?
Sure. I would say that as far as the international travel, vacationing, things like that, we're seeing pretty good strength there. We're seeing that consumers, even though they're prioritizing where they spend their money, they're cutting back a little bit. Things are a little bit tighter. That is one of the first places that they keep, or the last places that they cut. Experiences has won over versus premium consumer goods. So I think that as far as the vacationing or the personal travel, including international, that's very strong. We're starting also, as far as the business goes, as far as that trend goes, we are starting to see a small uptick. So bullish as far as that goes as well. So again, generally speaking, pretty bullish on the airline industry overall. Some of these safety things recently, I think, have caused consumers to pause. And of course, the Spirit JetBlue debacle, I think, is causing some frustration for investors. But overall, slightly bullish on the industry. I like where we're going despite Delta's sell-off.
Yeah, you wonder what impact them having to ground the 737 MAX 9s, because United's got a few of those, and then also the turmoil in the Middle East where they had to cancel a bunch of flights over there. So have to see what type of impact that has. All right, great stuff, great data as always, Landon. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Landon Swan, co-founder at Folio, breaking down the data for us. Kev,